Hello and welcome to Ahrex fly tying. My name is Håkan and today we will be tying a salmon fly on our treble hook, the HR 490. This is the silver one in size 6. You can also get the hook black or gold, but we're using the silver one. And the pattern we're tying is a so-called shrimp pattern. This is the Silver Wilkinson shrimp pattern. So let's start. It can be a bit tricky to tie on the treble hook because of course you have 3 points. Hook point will try to do some damage if you're not careful. I'm starting with the tag, which is made out of oval silver tinsel, fine. And I start tying it in just behind the hook guy, and I tie it down all the way to the hook band. As you can see, I'm using quite short thread instead of using a longer one. Then you don't get snag in the hook point as much as you would do otherwise. And when I come to a point just above the hook point, I start winding the silver tinsel in touching turns, and as you can see, I wave as I wave my hand just to avoid the hook point. And after 4 or 5 turns, I just pull the thread between 2 of the hooks and tie it down. And then we tie it down along the shank just to make it smooth for the body. Cut off. The body of the fly is made of silver tinsel and it's ribbed with oval silver, so I tie in another piece along the shank all the way back to the tag and just leave it there for now. The tail is made of bucktail, orange, so I cut off a small bundle. And you can stack the hair if you want, but otherwise you just hold the tip and just pull off the hair that is too short, and you will have a thin, nice, slim bundle of hair. And I do the tail 1.5 times the hook shank. Tie it in top of the shank and tie it down along the shank and cut off the waist. And we will also add some flash to the tail. So I'm using this Krystal Flash, Krystal Mirage Flash, and I just use 2 or 3 strands, I think 2. And tie them in on top of the tail and fold it back. We have 4 strands and cut them off so they are even with the tail. And now for the first half of the body, I'm using flat tinsel. This is one with gold and silver on both sides, on each side. And I tie it in the middle of the hook shank and wind it back to the tag and forward again. And tie. And the rib, just make 2 or maybe 3 turns. 2 is okay. And tie. The fly has 2 hackles. The first one is Magenta, and I'm using rooster hackle. And I'm choosing feathers quite long because I'm using the fibers on the top part of the hackle because the stem is a bit thinner there. So just strip off all the waste and pull out the fibers before you cut off the tip and tie it in. The tricky part now is to avoid the hook points. But instead of just stroking back the fibers, I just make sure I tie the turns of hackle in front of each other, just like you would do with a dry fly. And when you tied it down, cut off the stem, I sort of press down the fibers coming from the front part of the hook, and then maybe tie them down a bit more. By doing this, you avoid these sharp hook points. And then we go forward with the thread and tie in another piece of oval silver tinsel behind the hook eye. Tie it down all the way back to the hackle and go forward and tie in another piece of silver tinsel or flat tinsel and wind the tinsel back to the hackle and then forward again and tie down. Now we rib the fly, 1, 2, 2.5, and tie down. And the second hackle is blue, light blue or silver doctor blue. And I do the same, just use the top part of the feather and cut off the tip and tie it. Do the same, just make 2 or 3 turns, tie in and cut off. Now do the same, just press down the fibers from the hook eye and tie down if you need. And to finish off the fly, I will be using sides, jungle cook feathers. It's optional, you can use substitute if you want. But I'm not making the sides long, I just use sort of the eye of the feather, or the nail as they say. And tie in one on each side, one on the other. So just tie it down on the white part of the feather, like that. And then we cut off the waist. And just cover the rest with thread to make a neat head. And a wig finish. And finally, some varnish on the head to make it shiny and last longer. And there you have the shrimp, Silver Wilkinson shrimp on the treble hook.